Thank you. It is always a great privilege to be able to come talk to students, not necessarily just students that are going into medicine, but students in general, just to stress the importance of education. Today my talk is going to focus not so much on medicine and what I do. Of course, I'll be happy to talk about it if you guys have any questions. I'm going to talk more about the importance of getting yourself a good education. How many people here have parents that didn't graduate high school? Okay, and I'm one of them. Neither one of my parents graduated high school. How many people here have parents that didn't graduate college? So everybody has parents that graduated from college? That's pretty impressive. That's pretty good. Because you see, in our culture, less than 25% of our people end up getting any sort of college degree. Here lately, there's been an increase in the number of Hispanics in the United States. So therefore, there's been a higher number of Hispanics graduating high school every year. So there's been a higher number of Hispanics enrolling to college. Record numbers. Just saw it on NBC, a report. Record numbers of Hispanics going to college. The sad thing, though, is that the number of Hispanics graduating from college has dropped 9%. We were less than 25% graduating college, and less than 9%. Now, if you're from South Laredo, if you're from South San Antonio, South El Paso, and especially if you have parents that did not graduate high school, much less college, then all the numbers are stacked against you. And you're not expected to succeed. You're not expected to become somebody. They pay attention more to the people that we expect are going to do good, and graduate from college. So, I would have come to United South had United South been in existence when I was in high school. I went to United High School, but I grew up here in Villa del Sol. Anybody know where that's at? Yeah. So I grew up on Cortez there in Villa del Sol, and I grew up, with parents that were uneducated, no high school, not even a high school education. I was the middle child of 7 kids. So, and I'm the only one in my family that got a professional degree. Only one mother sister went to college and graduated. All my other siblings never went to college. But that's the pattern. That's what's expected when you grow up in a family like that, right? Less than 25%. So when I graduated high school, you guys are mostly juniors, seniors? Yeah. So when I was a senior in high school, at United High School, I was a star athlete. I was a star baseball player, star football player, all district, all city, all state, offensive player of the year, you name it. I got all those awards. And I was really banking on, hey, you know what? I'm not going to pay too much attention in school because I'm going to go play sports. That was my thing. I'm inducted in the Latin American Hall of Fame, through sports. That was my thing. I'm going to go play sports. Well, things change, right? All reality is how many 5'8" Mexicans do you see in the NFL, right? You don't, And I could have gone and played baseball, but, through my injuries that I received, I became depressed. And all of a sudden I'm here, sitting in your position when I'm a senior in high school, at your level, senior in high school, asking, what am I going to do? Had no idea. Enrolled at Laredo Community College. I stayed there for a year, started taking some basics, started liking the sciences, you know. I really liked the biologies, the chemistries, physics, and I was a mediocre student in high school. I graduated in the top 25%, right? I think I was like number 100 out of 400 students, like right at the cutoff. You know, I was an A-B student. Every now and then I would get a C, but I had parents that would never ask me for a report card. You know? My dad's biggest thing was when I got out of school, I needed to go help him with the business. Wash cars, clean, change oils, spark plugs, do all that stuff. You know, his concern was not, how was your day at school? It's like, I need you here to come work now, right? So, you know, so I was amazed that I even graduated in the top 25%. From LCC, I ended up, I couldn't afford to go to a big university, and my parents didn't have a college fund set for me. I mean, they could barely pay their bills and provide food, you know, much less were they gonna provide a college fund for me. And when I told my dad, hey Dad, you know what? You know, I like science, I'm gonna be a scientist, you know. I'm gonna be a scientist and I'm gonna take off for college. And he was like, what? You're crazy, you can't leave. Like, I need you to stay here. You know, I need you to help with the business. He had a car lot. You know, we sold used cars at the time. So, you know, and his staff was basically me and another guy, you know. And so against his wishes, I took off to San Antonio, you know, got grants, college funds, scholarships, grants, loans. You know, I've been out of high school 25 years and I'm still paying for my school. But it's okay. That's a well worth debt. You know, I don't mind paying for I'm still sending payments every month to pay for the debt that I accumulated through my education. Got to UTSA, and guess what? My first day at UTSA, I have a pre-medical advisor, you know, because I tell him I'm in the science program, and you know, I'm contemplating doing medicine, but you know, if not, I want to be a scientist. I wanted to work in the lab. You know, I love, you know, blowing up things and burning Bunsen burners and all that good stuff, you know. And he looked at me and he looked at my file. I had mediocre SAT scores. You know, I was transferring Laredo Community College with a B average, of course, because I was going to school full time and working full time. You know, you come from a low socioeconomical status, right? Because we're in the South, so we're in a low socioeconomical, we're considered to be that, right? Uneducated parents. Where are you going to find the money to pay for medical school? Medical school was $25,000 a year, you know. So he closed the file and he told me, hey, you know what? You're never going to become a doctor. You need to find something else to do. You know, so needless to say, had I listened to a person of authority of that time, and I don't suggest that you don't listen to people of authority, there's rules that we need to follow all the time. But had I listened to somebody telling me, you can't be this, you can't do that, some Caucasian man sitting behind a desk, you know, carrying a title, telling you, you cannot do this in your life. It's like, well, guess what, you know? You're not going to tell this Mexican that I cannot do this. You know, so that really, I already had the desire. That gave me motivation. That gave me determination, you know, and that gave me that, you know what, I'm going to do this, you know. So I graduated UTSA, got accepted into the University of Texas Medical Branch. You know, and that letter, my acceptance letter, I slipped it under the door of that pre-medical advisor. Went over to University of Texas Medical Branch, did medical school there, of course, getting loans and all that stuff. And when I first got there, I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing because I was scared of dead bodies. You know? And if you're not scared of a dead body, then there's something wrong with you. You know? So the first day they have the white coat ceremony where you walk into the gross anatomy lab. First day of medical school, they give you a dead body, right? That you're going to spend the whole year with. So I walk into the gross anatomy lab, and there's this big ceremony where the upperclassmen are there. They form a line, and you come up, and they put on your little white coat. Medical students wear little short white coats with a pin, and then you march your way up into this building. And the gross anatomy rooms are very creepy because they're dark, cold, and there's body parts in jars and stuff all over the room, So I get next to my body, and there's this big stainless steel container, and then there's this strong singe of formaldehyde. You guys know what formaldehyde is, right? You dissect your cats, your pigs, your worms and stuff. This is a whole body that's soaked in a whole tank of formaldehyde, and there's 100 bodies in that gross anatomy lab. So it's really bad, really strong smell. And so you get there and you pull this thing up, and this elevator brings this dead body up, And I thought I was about to faint. Like I felt my legs go, and I was like, man, first day already in medical school, and I'm like, is this stuff even for me? And it's just repetition, getting used to it. By the end of the year, I would be eating pizza and studying there, and just like if nothing, And by the end of the year, this body, you can't tell anything. You can't tell anything because you've dissected everything, you've taken every bone apart, you've done, it's just pieces of body. And I knew I was going to be okay when I was able to put the head between my knees and saw it this way and that way, so we could open up the inside and study the inside, So that was like my conquer in medical school. Like, you know what? I didn't think I could do this the first day that I was here, and now I'm here a year out, and this is like of nothing. So there's always going to be doubts. There's always going to be questions as far as your choice in field career, but don't give up, You just keep going, and eventually you will succeed. And I picked the other thing is you got to pick the field that you're going to be in because you like doing what you do, not because of anything else. If I did not love medicine, I would not be able to tolerate working 16-hour days every day and being on call every night, So you gotta pick what you do. You gotta make sure you know what you want to do and like what you do, because that's something that you're gonna do for the rest of your life. After medical school, I got accepted to residency in Waco. We were associated there with the University of Texas Southwestern. Of course, we have Baylor University there too. Spent 3 years there. I was the only Mexican in the program. It was in a Baptist community, so there was a big culture. I'm used to being around a lot of Catholics, and all of my colleagues, most of them were Southern Baptists, and But again, I melted well with them. I mixed in well with them, and 3 years later, I'm here in Laredo. So that whole process took 12 years, from graduating high school to coming back home. And along the way, there was a lot of people who told me I couldn't do what I wanted to do. A lot of times, I doubted myself. There was times where I really just wanted to give up, because in medical school we had this thing that was called Black Monday. So every fifth week you would have all your tests in one day. So we would be testing from 7 in the morning till 5, 6 o'clock at night with a 1-hour lunch break. And we did that every fifth Monday. So can you imagine how hard it is to study for one test? We had to study for 6 tests, and we would be tested every. So 2 nights and the night before the exam, everybody was on suicide watch because it was so intense, But then the exam came, and then everybody goofed off for like about a week, and then the second week everybody started coming around again. So plenty of times that I told myself I cannot do this. I'm gonna quit. Just because it was so much work. But now being here, I realize that this is a lot harder than school. School's a lot of fun. You get to hang out with people, you get to play sports. I played sports all the way through medical school. I played intramural football, softball, basketball, racquetball, all the way until I graduated medical school. When you go from here to the university, there's going to be thousands of new people, thousands of new friends, And the important thing there's going to be being able to separate your study time from your good times. Is anybody leaving after this year, going anywhere? Where are you going, Mita? Oh, good. Good school. Well, good. Yeah. So, it's a trying time. It's a trying time. I remember leaving for school, and you get homesick. Us Mexicanos, we're not like, excuse me, and I don't mean to sound, racist, but we're not like the Caucasian people or other cultures that are very independent. Us Mexicanos, we're very close to our parents. We're very close to our sisters, brothers, We like the weekend carne asada where everybody gets together, and then you leave school. You leave for school, and guess what? That's no longer happening, and you get homesick, But for other people, it's like, don't you miss your family? It's like, well, no. I mean, we really never got together, anyways, But so, I've already talked for about 15, 20 minutes. Before I keep going, is there any questions, as far as where I'm at right now?
What was your major?
My major in college was, I had a major in biology with a minor in chemistry. Yeah. And really what I was thinking about doing with my degree is being a scientist. I wanted to go get a PhD. I wanted to be a true scientist. I wanted to develop a new delivery method for certain medications. I wanted to develop like a new instrument, something in the medical profession. That's really what I intended. But I love biology so much. Biology. When I first got to UTSA, and in college everybody studies in studies groups. Really, nobody studies independently. When I first got to UTSA, I was having a hard time. And even UTSA, there's a lot of Mexicans, but even then, I still felt like some discrimination, from some people, And you try to find a study group when I got there, and everybody's like, "Oh no, we're full." So I ended up studying by myself. I ended up forming my own study group, which was me, And if the highest grade was a 110, that's what I would get. When all my sciences, I would always get perfect scores. I even got pulled aside one time, taken to the dean because I was being accused of cheating. There's no way this guy can get perfect scores all the time. He has to be doing something. The pre-medical advisor that told me I would never be a doctor, I took his class, which was biochemistry. And biochemistry is very hard in college, even harder in medical school. But needless to say, first test came around, perfect. Second test came around, perfect. He says, "There's just no way. Nobody does this." Took me to the dean. He needs to take an oral exam. I don't believe that, this man's doing something. He's cheating, And I said, "Okay, fine. Fair, I'll take an oral exam." In front of the dean, I said, "But if I have to take an oral exam, then everybody else has to take an oral exam. I'll be happy to subject myself to that, but you have to make it where everybody does it." And of course, the dean didn't allow that. And third test came about, scored perfect again, pulled me aside, said, "Hey, who are you? Where'd you come from? What's your major?" And this is how I was already a junior in college. When he had met me, it was the beginning of my sophomore year. And I told Mateo Reyes, and what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going pre-med. He said, well, it's impossible because every pre-med student that comes through here comes through me. I'm the one that helps them get into medical school. I said, I know. I did, and I approached you, and when you read my file, you said I would never be a doctor, to find something else to do. So I've been doing this with the help of a counselor, and he stayed freaked out, right? So by the time I started scoring all these perfect tests, the perfect scores, then people started approaching me to study with me, right? And it just felt awesome that, here I was, this guy that was told from the beginning, you will not succeed, you will not do this, and nobody wanted to study with, to being a person of interest. You know what? Don't take that class with that guy because he aces the test and he messes up the curves. So if that guy's in that class, there's not going to be a curve, So, just determination, So you need goals. You need to set a goal. First of all, you need to set a goal. Without a goal, there's no direction. You don't know where you're going, and if you don't know where you're going, then you waste time. Okay. You're going to have determination, because there's going to be plenty of times that you're going to feel like giving up, and there's going to be plenty of times, you're going to run into walls, but you need to get up, and you need to go, and you need to continue. You're going to need dedication, because even if people do not tell you cannot do it, if you're not dedicated to doing what you're setting out to do, you're not going to accomplish. I was amazed. I have a daughter that's a senior at Alexander, and she's in the top 3 or 4% of her class. And I was just so amazed how easy it was for her to pick a university, pick what she wanted to go to, and got accepted since like October, November, And here I am, like, when I was going through that stuff, because I didn't dedicate myself to school the way she did, Not that UTSA is a bad university, it's actually a very good university. But even if I wanted to go, say, to like Harvard, or if I wanted to go to, Stanford, or even Rice University or Baylor, I would have had a hard time because of my grades, I'm very thankful for UTSA because they got me to where I needed to be. There were some of my friends that were going to UT and to A&M that were pre-med that didn't make it, So you need your goals, you need determination, you need dedication, you need to be responsible. You cannot procrastinate. You need, if you have work to do, you need to do it in allotted time. Don't wait for the day before. I have my test is not till next week, so I'll wait till the weekend. No. Stay ahead. Always stay ahead. If you stay on top of things, come test time, all you need to do is review because you've been studying. That makes it so much easier. My friends would be like, how can you get a perfect score? Well, you know what? When I would get home from lecture, I would listen to the lectures again, recopy my notes, redraw my diagrams. By the time the next day came about, the next lecture, I was already on it. I already understood. You have to understand today's lecture in order to be able to do good in tomorrow's lecture. If you do not understand today, if you don't understand what happened today in lecture, then you're not going to understand what happens tomorrow because it always ties in, So when the test time came about, everything was, I understand all this stuff, no problem, Being responsible, making sure you're following rules, Kids get in trouble in college all the time, too much partying, you're independent, hooking up guys, girls, frat parties, which are awesome, but, if you go to too many of them, you're not going to do too good in school, You need parental support. You need to make sure you keep good relationships with your parents, because the mind is such a powerful organ. You know? If your mind is not good, your body's not good. If your mind is not good and your body's not good, you cannot excel. You know? You need a good mind in order to be able to sit here and listen. Because if you have problems in your head, you're with your brothers and sisters and your parents, you know, there's a lot of quarrel. That takes up unnecessary space in your mind that keeps you from being productive. Y'all understand that? You know? And I know it's hard, and everybody has problems. My life is not perfect by any means, you know? By no means. But you know what? You know, I have, you know, at least for at least 23 hours a day, my mind has to try to be clear. You know, because I work, even when I get home at night, I deliver I'm a family dog, so I deliver babies, I take care of babies, I take care of moms, I take care of grandparents, you know. So I see people from the day they're born to the day they die. I delivered a baby. I had a patient die through the evening. Today is Friday. Through the evening, Tuesday night. You know, like at 8, 9 o'clock at night. Unfortunate man. You know, and at 6, 7 in the morning, I was delivering a baby. So that's, you know, that's the type of stuff that I do, you know, and it's difficult to tell a family, I'm sorry, you know, about your loved one, and you know, that's a cycle of life, you know. We're all going to die someday, but obviously we all want to live as long as we can, you know. But then, not even 12 hours later, I'm bringing life into this world, and it's just an awesome feeling, you know. So, in taking care of the full spectrum of the family, you know, and dealing in family medicine, I understand, you know, family dynamics pretty good, you know, and it's important that you keep those. You know, it's important that you keep good relationships, because without support, it makes getting through life that much more difficult. So, in summary, what I want to tell you guys is that, you know, we are, because I still consider myself a South Laredoan, we are a population that has the odds against us. Even though there's increasing number of Hispanics enrolling into the university, we're still not seeing greater number of Hispanics graduating, you know. And where there's a will, there's a way. Because you don't have money to go to college doesn't mean you cannot find revenues, you cannot find assistance to go to school, you know. Don't ever listen to people that tell you cannot accomplish what you want to accomplish. You know, be determined to finish what you're set out to do. I love my siblings to death. And I have siblings across the whole spectrum, you know, from socioeconomical status, I would say. You know, and I see the way, you know, we all struggle in our different ways. But obviously, I'm not saying money's everything, because obviously money is not everything. Money does not mean happiness. You know, it helps. You know, it helps. But, you know, you look at how people that didn't go through an education struggle, and then I see how blessed I am because I was able to study. So I can see how important education is. 5 friends, including me, we grew up here in Villa del Sol. We were the worst. You know, we picked fights every day. We'd go to the store. We didn't have money to buy candy, so we would steal candy. And I mean, but you're talking about when we were 10, 11, 12 years old, not at your age, all right? You know, we didn't know any better. Playing out in the monte, you know, shooting each other with BB guns and doing, just doing what kids do down here, right? Because up in the north, I never see kids outside, and none of our parents had a pair of parents that had a high school education. Some of them did have a high school education, and one kid had a parent that actually had a college degree from Mexico, right? So 5 kids, only one of us is supposed to succeed. Low socioeconomic status, South Laredo, uneducated parents. Out of 5 people, only one of us was supposed to succeed. I'm happy to say that this group of kids, that grew up together in all badness, we have all of us have college degrees. 2 of them are custom brokers. 2 of them are CPAs. And of course, I'm the doctor. One of the CPAs sits pretty in one of the sky towers in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, being the comptroller for all of South America for Halliburton. As guy makes more money than I do, a lot more. And then all the other guys, 2 of the other guys own their own company. All the other 3 own their own companies, and they do very well for themselves. It's just something to illustrate that, we can do it. And you know what? Because the odds exist, the odds are out there, the numbers are against us, doesn't mean that you have to follow those odds. Do not settle with those odds. Do not become part of the statistics. Do not become a number. Any questions?
How was your MCAT process?
Medical college admissions test for me, it took me twice to get into medical school, because the first time I was trying to get into medical school, I was trying to get in as a junior without a bachelor's degree, right? Which is very hard to do. But I tried anyways. So I had to take my MCAT really at the end of my sophomore year to be able to apply as a junior. And then of course the second time was after my junior year, and I did this thing that was called Kaplan at the time. It was called the Kaplan course, Kaplan review, and that's what I did. And I scored well. I scored well enough the first time that I got interviews everywhere in Texas. I didn't get in, but I didn't have a degree.
So you recommended to take it going to senior year?
You're going to be tested over physics. You're going to be tested over the chemistries and over the biologies. Before you take the test, make sure you have the necessary. It doesn't matter if it's as a sophomore or as a junior, but just make sure you have the necessary courses. You don't want to be tested over something you haven't seen. So that stuff you can talk to with your pre-med advisor or with your counselor. Anything else? Anybody?
Did you like your residency?
Residency. That's where I learned. Really, medical school is like reading books, and you do some stuff that's practical, but you really don't apply your knowledge until you're in residency. You get an MD when you graduate medical school, but you're dangerous, man. You really don't know what the hell you're doing then, So it's not until you do residency, 3 years of every day working, that does that. So in my profession, I always like to end with just some crazy stuff in medicine. In my profession, my scariest moment was one time I was doing the trauma service as a medical student. This girl, 18 years old by the way at the time, had come in. She gotten shot in Mardi Gras in Galveston, and so she's dying. Wheel her back to the operating room. The surgeon slashes the side of her chest open. She's almost dead. Pulls the heart out, puts it in my hands, and I'm sitting there, and he's like, "Do compressions, So they're fixing the paddles and stuff to try to still resuscitate the patient. and they're trying to plug up where she's bleeding from, what's causing her to bleed. So I have this heart in my hands doing this, and then I would stop and it would be quivering, and so that was like the weirdest time in my profession. And the only reason I say this is because you're going to have weird times whenever you're going through what you're going through. And needless to say, the young lady died. We were not able to save her. So it was a weird and very sad time because it's an 18-year-old. At the time, I was only like 25, and you could really say, wow, that's, it was horrible. Funny time was when I was learning how to deliver babies. I was a junior medical student, and it was like you have this mannequin and you practice the maneuvers of how to deliver a baby, and so my first baby, they're like, okay, Reyes, you're up, come on, so I get there, we used to call it the catcher's position, right? So I see the head coming out, and of course I'd never seen a head come out, during a delivery. So I'm like kind of stunned, and then all of a sudden, I start doing my stuff, and I deliver the baby, but nobody ever told me how slippery a newborn baby is, right? So thank God we have a bag that sits right there, right? So I get this baby, and he goes, and the resident is going like, where's the baby? I'm like, down there. He's like, well, get it. It's like, and the mom is like, what is it? I'm like, hold on, I'm trying. Like, so that was, you're gonna run into fun. Now I've delivered thousands of babies. I promise I never dropped any of you guys, So, I deliver babies with one hand now and talk to the nurses and the mom, no problem. But there's gonna be funny times. There's gonna be embarrassing times. But you know what? You just work through them, and the more and more you do what you decide to do, the better and better you get at it. So, okay, if you all don't have any more questions, then anything else? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Who's your brother? Rosales. Who's your mom? Oh, yes. Yes. Joaquina Rosales. Yeah. Well, how old is your brother now? Yeah. Yes. I know. Yes, I know exactly. Yes. Very good. UTMB in Galveston. Yeah. Good school. I highly recommend it.
You were describing how your days are super long.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a pattern to your days? You wake up?
Well, here in Laredo, we're an underserved community, so there's a shortage of physicians. So we work harder than you would anywhere else. I sometimes I try to take my son to school. When I do, that day starts at 7 in the morning. And then from after I drop off my son, go to the hospital, begin rounds, come to clinic, try to be in clinic by 9:30, see patients all the way straight through. I might have 10, 15 minutes for lunch, see patients all the way to like about 7. I try to work out from 8 to 9, 8 to 9:30, then go back to the hospital, finish rounds, get home at about 10:30, 11. So, and then of course, if I have to do a delivery, babies they deliver at whatever time. So sometimes I'll fall asleep at 1 and I'm back at the hospital at 3 in the morning delivering a baby, or I have a patient that's crashing, somebody who's dying on me or something that I have to go. Phone calls, through the night. But you know what? Again, there's rewards to it. One thing is, thank God, because of the amount of time that I work, I get rewarded very handsomely through it, monetarily wise, and through the community. The community is always very nice to me. I'm the doctor for the arena, so whenever any of the stars come, that are sick, or I needed a dancer is having an issue or something, they call me. So they always give me free tickets to be there. I have no problem getting loans at banks, what I do for their family, and so there's a lot of perks. I mean, I work hard, and of course, because we work so much here, doctors here in Laredo make more than you would anywhere else. But again, like I say, don't think about money being important. But it certainly helps. I mean, when you're working a lot, like this weekend I'm gonna have off. It sure is good to have that money in the bank to just get away for the weekend and not worry about anything, or just say, you know what, I'm gonna go skiing next week, or I'm gonna go to Puerto Rico. It helps. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
What hospital do you work?
Ms. Boteo? Are you Ms. Boteo?
No, Skiles.
Skiles, you look like Ms. Boteo, sorry.
Oh, okay.
You look like a teacher I had. So.
I'm a sub, but my children work in Doctor's Hospital.
Okay, yeah, I work out of both hospitals.
Okay.
I've been chief of staff at both places. I've been secretary of the medical staff. I've been vice chief, chief of family medicine. Right now, I'm a second-year board member at Laredo Medical Center. But
Oh, okay.
yeah,
They both work for Doctor's Hospital.
I do both hospitals. I work this morning. I started off at 6:45 at Doctors. Right now, after here, I'll be going to LMC to go finish rounds. So, where do they work?
Postpartum and the pediatrics.
Your daughters?
My son works in the evening at pediatrics, and my daughter works for postpartum.
Who's your daughter?
Erica Skiles.
Oh,
and Jeremy
Erica.
Skiles.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm sure I've seen him because I'm in postpartum quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very good. Very good. Yes, sir.
One last question. How would you describe your continuing education as a nurse professional?
Well, as a doctor, you be very dumb to think you know it all and not continue learning. I actually, if I have a question on something, I'll actually at night when I get home and I'm actually in bed, I'll actually pull up an article and educate myself on it. It's required to maintain my board because you become a family dog, but then there's another certificate when you get a board certification. That means you've gone the extra efforts, you've done extra work, put in more continuing medical education to maintain this type of certification. That one, every 3 years, I need to turn in 150 hours worth of CME. And then there's modules that I have to do. There's 10 a year that I have to do, like say in heart attacks, I have to do a module in heart attack, and I have to do 10 modules a year to maintain my certification, so and really going to school in my profession is actually awesome because the conferences are usually like in Hawaii or some nice beach or some nice cruise or something, and you get to go and learn, and a lot of times I know you guys don't deal with the IRS right now, but that actually helps with the IRS when you go to those conferences. So. And of course, every person, does something different sometimes. People are not the same and they don't follow the textbook. If everybody followed the textbook, then medicine would be so easy and you could have robots being doctors. But the truth is everybody's a little different. Not everybody's the same. So you really have to use your brain with people. So I learn with individuals as well. So. Any other questions?
What would you say was, I think, the driving force as a young, maybe high school student to make you persevere and push forward?
It was my environment. I wouldn't say there was a person. It was my environment. Like I grew up in a household, where for a good part of my middle school, intermediate, and even my early high school years, there was no phone in my house, no cable. We were getting some, relying on, that's when the peso devaluation hit, the very big one. So my dad was in partnership with a business, and it just really went bad. We were never well off to begin with, but we were just worse off. So as a seventh grader, we were getting government checks, 7 kids, and on Fridays, every weekend. On Thursday, my dad would come back from Mexico with all this stuff from Mexico, curiosidades. Thursday night, we would pack all the stuff, load a U-Haul. Friday night, at midnight, we would take off to Houston. My dad and I was 12 years old, and we did that for 2 years. We would take off to Houston, get to Houston like at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, get to the flea market, unload everything, work all day, reload whatever we didn't sell, go to the hotel, come back the next morning, unload everything again, sell everything. Usually by Sunday night, everything was gone. And then by the time we were coming back, my dad would be so tired. And of course, he wanted to just, he had all faith in me. And I would be driving a Suburban with a U-Haul at the age of 12 coming back from Houston, and I did that for a couple of years, and it was almost every weekend, except for when I played sports that I had a game or something on the weekend. It was the only time that my dad would let me stay behind, and then of course, there was things that I wanted to have that I didn't want to continue living, repeating, being on government assistance. Nothing wrong with it. Certainly helped my family during its hard times. But I didn't want to be one that kept with it forever. And I wanted to live a comfortable life. My parents didn't have money. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth. So I knew that if I was going to live a comfortable life, I was going to have to do something with myself. And that was my driving force. It was the environment I grew up in.
Do you see your own children following in your footsteps?
My kids are something else. My daughter was going pre-med, and at the last moment she changed her mind to become pre-vet. So she wants to be a veterinarian, and so she's in she already got accepted to the biomedical program at Texas A&M. So she's leaving this summer. My freshman in Alexander, Rebecca, she's a dancer, and she's in the magnet at Alexander, straight A student, very good. I mean, she surprises me that she gets such good grades because her life is about dancing. Last summer, she spent a couple of weeks in Vegas with some awesome choreographers. This summer, she's going to the San Francisco Conservatory School of Dancing. Again, her goal is to get to Juilliard. She wants to go to school in Juilliard. That's what she wants to do. My son, Mateo, that guy's a 7th grader, going to be an 8th grader, and that guy worries me. Because, I think I've made life too easy for him, and that guy just, granted, the age, right? But he just stays in a room all day, and I'm like, I have to call him and tell him, hey, son, let's go do something. Let's, like tonight, finally going to the Spurs game together. And, and it's been years since I've been to the movies, and he calls me on Sunday and he says, hey, Dad, can you take me to see this movie? And I'm like, I don't know any better, right? I'm trying to spend some quality time with my son. Unfriended? I was like halfway through the movie, I'm like this. I'm like, hey, son, what were you thinking? He's like, it's a horror movie, So anyways, yeah, so I don't know what my son wants to do, but, he's still too young. I didn't know what I was going to do really until my first year of college. So, any questions? Yes, sir. Sacrifices along the way are mostly sacrificing. When I was going through school, a lot of my buddies were hanging out, like, not a lot of friends, because my true buddies have always hung out with me, and we're still the best of friends, those 5 that grew up together, But you sacrifice family time, you sacrifice holidays, because there's a lot of holidays where you have to study, you can't come home, You sacrifice a lot of people, like say when I was getting into medical school, it was people already buying their houses, getting married, buying cars, and I'm still in school, So you sacrifice that stuff. But you know what? If I had to do it all over again, I would. Because that stuff comes back to you tenfold. Later on down the road. Once you get your education, once you get your career, it doesn't matter what sacrifices. I sacrifice working 16, 18 hours a day for my children now, because I want them to have better than what I did. And I want them, something were to happen to me, I want them to be sad, So back then, there was different sacrifices. Now there's this different sacrifices. Later on, I'm sure there's going to be different sacrifices. You're always going to have to give something up in order. You're never going to be complacent. In other words, you're never going to be at a point where life is easy and I don't have to. I can have this, and this. No, it's always going to be I can have this, but in order to have this, I'm going to have to give this up. A lot of I would study hard Monday through Friday. Sunday night through Friday, I would study hard every day. But Friday nights, you would see me at concerts, whatever. I worked as my last year in at UTSA. I was first a waiter at Tony Roma's, and then I became a bartender. When I was already accepted to medical school, and I didn't have to get the straight A's anymore. So it's it's had a little money to do some things, but what Saturday was my time, Friday night was my time, and then Sunday back to the books. Hard. I would study hard. So you're always going to have to sacrifice. Life is not that easy, and being in your all's shoes, this is what I try to tell kids. You have to understand, you guys are like, oh, I can't wait to be done with school, I can't. You guys don't understand that these are great times. Having to raise a family, pay bills, go to work, that's rough. You guys enjoy this time. I would have stayed a student forever, because those were awesome times, man. Playing sports, going to school, not having to worry about paying bills and all that stuff. Of course I did, right? But thank God, once I got into professional school, I had no limit on loans and stuff. They knew I was going to finish, and therefore they would give me money to pay for everything that I had to. I didn't really have to worry about my bills. But needless to say, it's well worth it. I know I've already probably bored you guys, but all good? Well, I'm a very pro-education type of guy, and if you guys ever have any questions, my clinic is right up the road, Mateo Reyes. You guys feel free to stop by, pick up the phone, whatever, and I'll be happy to talk to you guys anytime. Right? Thank you.